Hombre extraordinario.
Me impresiona mucho.
Pues sabes que yo creo que no es tanto el físico, es más bien la personalidad que tiene y todo lo que proyecta.
Ya me lo imagino con su smoking blanco, un martini en una mano y un costoso habano en la otra. Provocativo. Atractivo.
A new stereophonic sound spectacular.
Hello there, and welcome to the exciting world of HIP. This is a new departure in language instruction for English-speaking people who want to talk to and be understood by jazz musicians, hipsters, beatniks, juvenile delinquents, and the criminal fringe.
Bonjour madame, bonjour monsieur. Nous allons, grâce à ce disque créé spécialement pour vous, essayer de tirer ensemble le maximum de qualité sonore de votre chaîne haute fidélité.
Sit back, relax, and close your eyes.
We're live. Hey, welcome everybody to this The Real Agile podcast. It's episode 57. Yes, live long and prosper. Hey, today I'm with Harold Shinsato. Did I get it right?
Mostly.
Ryan, it sounds like Ryan. Erickson. So it's very nice to see you, gentlemen. And today we are here because of my folly. I brought you here because you're, I think, a great mind. I know Ryan more than Harold. So Harold, it's nice to finally really meet you almost in person. This virtual world. And I love our minds of what Daniel Mezik the other day at Agile Boston, he says like, he seems to tell me that I'm the one who started this Agile Renaissance. But it's not about me. It's not about even either one of you. But when I saw that video the week after my passage at Agile Renaissance to talk about Agile is the new waterfall, and probably this intelligent artificial, because for me it's still machine learning. There's nothing intelligent about this artificiality, but whatever. That may be another podcast. But probably the feed of YouTube and Rumble was giving me things about Agile is the new waterfall, because it was literally into a suggestion list that I discovered this video that we're going to play a bit to put our listener into what we like to talk about, is because it was the inspiration to, oh, that's great. So there's other guys in Germany over at their company. It's called the Stripped. Do I pronounce Stripped or
Stripped Giraf?
Stripped Giraf. There seems to be a consulting firm of, implementing Scrum, adoption of Agile and Lean, stuff like this. But anyways, we don't do necessarily. And they made that video, kind of very sarcastic video in my sense, to the last 23 years of history. And so I thought to myself, like, oh, this is great. So I watched it 3 times the first time just to make sure that I got everything. And I'd like to share it with you. What have you seen? Because I'd like to invite you on the side of my table, but I hope you will invite me on your side of the table, because it's different perspective. We are all unique human beings, and we don't see the same thing. And of course, it's not a question of debunking it, but at some point, I don't know if you remember, Ryan, when I chat to you live after I just watched it on WhatsApp, I was even voicing you. My first RL, just to put you in a mood, like when I watched it the first time, I laughed like crazy. I said, like, they nailed it, like on the point of all of these misconceptions. And it was so great in 2001 with those 17 guys. And then move forward of today, it's all a bunch of fake coach, inflation of certification, stuff like this. But when I rewatch it and then I voice message you, Ryan, I was like, okay, but then again, the critic, it's on Agile software development with whatever you want. It's nothing about business agility. In my sense, the real revolution. It's nothing about getting people being more innovative. But anyways, I'm disgracing. Let's welcome you first. And I'd like to give you a chance to say hi to my listener and my jogger. There's a club of jogger on the The Real Agile podcast. They will listen to us by doing their workout and their jogging. So I salute Marta in Norway, a couple of people in Amsterdam that run with us, listening to this podcast. So you know who you are. I love you and thank you for your coffee and Bitcoin. If you want to do like them, go in the link in the description of this video and you could do this. So without further ado, Harold, who are you? And just like that.
My name is Harold Shinsato. I was born in New York, in Queens. Went to college in Cambridge, Massachusetts, at a technology company. Technology university, well known. I don't want to brag. You can see what it is on LinkedIn. And I ended up working at as a software developer at a company that was related to and connected to Palo Alto Research Center at Xerox, and I got to experience a lot of what this video talks about that we're going to comment on in terms of the waterfall oppression. And then I got really excited about Agile and eventually became independent as an Agile coach. And that's how I know these two gentlemen, is through my work with that, and also open space technology. I'm a board member of the Open Space Institute, and I believe open space is something really critical and important for us to get out of the silos, as they referenced, which is kind of like the whole industrial process of turning everyone into like everyone into little cages.
Yeah,
which is very anti-human.
Awesome. So it's interesting. We're gonna go back to this oppression of waterfall. Nowadays, I'm meeting so many people on both IT and business that talk about agile oppression. Could you imagine that? So yeah. Ryan, tell us who you are, even if my audience know you a little bit better now, but nevertheless, welcome back to the Dairy Agile podcast. My thanks to you.
Thank you. Bonjour. I am Ryan Erickson. I originated my life in Terre Haute, Indiana. I educated in a beautiful mystical place and learned about music very young and jazz very young. Ended up in college at a place I will brag about, Bowling Green State University, Bowling Green, Ohio. Go Falcons. At which point I took a left turn out of jazz music and went on a right turn into corporate and the corporate security blanket, as I like to call it. Spent 20 years with various and sundry companies, the last of which being IBM. And towards the end of my time with IBM, that's when I discovered Agile. I came into it from and I think we'll see it in the video, this hopeful mode, that new ways of work and more humane and collaborative and, dare I say, musical ways of work were possible. And I did a little transformation on a team and I got the bug. And that traveled with me for a while through a bump in my health life. And then as I emerged from that, emerging from COVID as well, I encountered our friend Harold here. And as it was a search for the source, right? I was in Agile before. And then I come back around and I see, whoa, I'm not feeling the spirit. I'm seeing zombie Agile. I'm seeing body, but no heart, no spirit. And so that kind of led me here. And I think we're all on the same page about the evils and inhumanity of imposition and the beauty of invitation and what that means. As I am also on the Open Space Institute board with Harold, I believe in the magic of open space and liberation of the human spirit as a result.
Let me ask you quickly, Harold and Ryan, maybe Harold, because I probably know the answer from Aaron. In terms of this open space kind of network from Erickson, right? Or it's something else? Is it?
That's it.
That's it. Okay. And so have you ever met one of our friends from the Enterprise Scrum network called Michael Ehrman? Do you know this gentleman?
Oh, very well. Yes.
Because I love him so much too. It's he's the one who actually introduced me to the open space concept back in the day when we were working together with Mike Beadle. So that was interesting to see that let's call it like this, old IDs were more novelty than this apparently new IDs of today. So, sort of speak. That was my perception when I was put in front of this amazing thing, because so that's great to have people of this other way of doing things, uncovering new way.
Well, what's interesting, because you mentioned this, Michael Herman was very early in the open space universe, and I'll just bring up, I think from Ecclesiastes, or it might be somewhere else, but there's nothing new under the sun. The ideas in open space are timeless and ancient and very indigenous. So it's not really new.
I think it was Michael who really suggested me to read this, The Canary in the Coal Mine, to make some kind of connection of like the real safety of a space to discuss and uncover new ways of things like this. So.
There is a lot to unpack around what I feel is almost dangerous naivete about safety, psychological safety. Dangerous naivete about creating things that are, like safe to fail or fail safe. They're trying to make fail safe. They're trying to make fail safe spaces, and those are very dangerous.
Yeah. And all right. So maybe what I suggest to do is, as I said, like I contacted them over at the Stripped Giraf to see if I could show the old. It's 7 minutes. So I didn't have any feedback from them. So just for respect, and by the way, guys, all the link of even some subject like after it's going to be put live. I could put some link into open space, the link of those gentlemen website, plus also, of course, the link of that video that I'm going to show an excerpt, just to pull ourselves in the discussion. So I hope I choose the right place, because I wanted to just show the segment of the transition between the two. And just to put ourselves into why we're here and what we'd like to discuss about. So I'm going to share my screen like this. Perfect. In your case, gentlemen, I don't think you need to put yourself on mute, but I will put myself on mute just because I'm I'm the streamer now. So I'm going to share this screen, not this screen, sorry. Okay, yeah. All right. There we go.
Over following a plan.
So we're gonna go back to the beginning.
Embrace the progress. What is Scrum and peeps, Melissa? Mo, hey, Eric. The hair is perfect, hey? Let's evoke the spirit of Agile and stand up for our right to stand up.
Thank God, finally we can stop doing and start talking about doing.
Stand up. Stand up for your Scrum. Linda, exactamundo. Now, come here. Before we begin, we're all gonna get on the same page here, you understand? When I say edge, you say aisle. Edge. Aisle. Edge. Aisle. Edge. Aisle. Edge. Aisle. Edge. Aisle. Now, tell me who is not as excited as I am to boost our efficiency by talking about efficiency. Yeah. Are you with me? So here we go. We're gonna break it down right now, real quick, all right? Now I am your certified Agile coach because do we not all want to be led, advised, and coached by people who have literally no obligation whatsoever to be trained in the actual field that they are coaching you in? Yeah!
Oh my God, guys. I don't know if I have to laugh or cry about this. I mean, of course, we cannot show the entire video. So if you want to watch the 7 minutes, go in the description. I put the link for these guys. watch the entire one, and then come back to our conversation. We're gonna start having here unscripted. We're just so.
I'm gonna cry because I resemble that guy. I resemble that guy.
You were a Scrum Master like him?
No, but I mean, I resemble that guy. That the way of behaving. So, but not in this context. So we'll talk about.
Really, I cannot imagine a purple squirrel jumping like this. But yes, I can actually. And you, Ira, what's your first reaction when you saw that piece of art?
Oh, the beginning I really related to, because you have all these people in their little cubicles.
Oh, you mean the real beginning? Yeah, the beginning of the yeah. Okay. Yeah,
and like I started in the software world, and at the Xerox Palo Alto Research Center, they had beanbag chairs. There was such freedom.
You mean back in the day?
Yeah, in the 80s,
when allegedly Steve Jobs stole stuff at Xerox.
Yeah. So like the origins of the software field had a lot of freedom, even though there was strong military connections to it. There was a lot of freedom, joy, play. Before Bill Gates got hammered in, and like. There was a lot of hobbyists.
No, that was not Bill Gates. That was Paul Allen. Come on. Poor Bill Gates. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It's not Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. It's all the fault of Wozniak and Allen. Come on. They're the real evil, not the front guy. I'm just playing around a little bit, like just.
Are you messing with me?
I'm messing with you. I like it. So.
Yeah. So like this sense of freedom that then, as we really had to like try to produce something of value for the marketplace, that was like a transition we needed. And then the groups were large. So when I was working at Xerox, we had large groups that were spanning the world. I mean, Japan, Germany. I mean, like it was in England, like we had a lot of developers. So you had to find some way to organize it all.
Yeah.
And Waterfall was a way to organize. So it was actually an improvement in a way. But, it doesn't really work. So.
But now you're talking you're talking about the early 80s or the 80s. But, Dr. Royce. Dr. Royce created for the Ministry of Defense. Oh, sorry. It's the Department of Defense. He created the IID, incremental iterative development for complex computer programming of the Army. But he came up with this model of the waterfall. So he created both kind of system, Dr. Royce, back in 1971. And actually, you probably know that, you two guys, but I did use it with Daniel Mizik on the Agile Boston talk. To show a great article from Uncle Bob, Robert C. Martin, at the University of St. Paul, who actually kind of, I don't know, he put in perspective this reality of these two creation. Actually, was it called waterfall back then? I think they were using another term. But nevertheless, it was like
I think Royce waterfall was in the Royce paper. But
yes,
it goes back to World War One. Gantt, the Gantt chart guy, he was
1919.
And that's where again that whole the way of organizing military forces in that way.
Yeah, but that's kind of so funny because a lot of people say, "Oh, we don't need the history of these things. Just are you ready to deliver? Are you ready to make things happen?" I said yes, but why do we need system? Why are we systematically thinking in system? And I made it on purpose to talk systematically thinking in systems. Like, why are we so functionalist, or are we so utilitarian, or stuff like this? Because for me, when I started, like it's two engineers actually who give me the book of Schreiber and Beadle, Agile Software Development with Scrum, and they tell us, forget about what the CIO told you to do and to be a project manager. You're going to be our Scrum Master, and period. So read that book and came up with something, and let's build a team. And we had a secret team and this big kind of department at Soft Sim Technology back in the day. They were building software. But again, for me, it was just like, okay, so you want to deliver things faster with more flexibility. So that's the thing, because agile, it's adjective, right? It's not a name. I don't think they call it as a name, but so
It is now.
M.
it is now,
Agile,
yeah.
TM.
So and but again,
Who is that?
I want
That
this
is
t-shirt.
that's the character
Oh.
Inigo Montoya from The Princess
Oh,
Bride.
yes, yes.
Who said,
Oh, man.
You've killed my father.
exactly.
Have a great one.
The guy says inconceivable.
Oh, you're right.
You keep using that word. I do not think what I think. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Yeah,
So,
probably inspired by Dilbert a little bit there.
Yeah.
But so gentlemen, for me, when I saw this, I laughed. I was kind of happy. Other people start to want to is it denounce or aware, kind of awake people that we could do better as a agile community or Scrum community or whatever you want to call ourselves together. It's and it's really sad because for me, 23 years later, and I remember last time I was in person with Mike Beadle in New York, and we catch it on video. Actually, I have it on my channel somewhere. He says like he was asked a question at the Business Agility Institute Summit. Don't you think Agile, it's a whole thing now? It's 17 years old, blah, 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 in 2018, I mean. And he says like, right away answer like, no, because the real revolution, it's business agility. To agilize everything, and agilizing everything is not like Evangelista or whatever. He was thinking of transforming the experience, because at Enterprise Scrum we were all about the experience. We didn't have just UX and CX. We had EX for employee experience, people who do the things. We have even shareholder experience, stakeholder experience, professional experience. Like everything was a hex. So we are the creator of X at Enterprise Scrum, actually. X.com should be ours. But anyways, joke aside, so the real revolution was to bring one of the 12 principles, my favorite one, IT and business people working together to satisfy the customer. And people tend to forget that when they go into their utilitarian system of delivery and stuff. So that was my thought. And when I watch it again, this Paradoxon video from Stripped Giraf with developers, they say like, are you ready for this? They say that the portrait, especially on the 23 years later, it shows, it says like, these are not engineers, these are not software engineers, these are not programmers. These are goofy web mobile application specialists.
Unfortunately, I think it's true.
So the war within IT and developer is still there. And this is why in my last 10 years of trying to bring business agility into life with Enterprise Scrum or Scrum at Scale, what have you, was always the rebuttal from the business people. They say like, they don't even agree on Agile and IT, and you want us to be Agile. So those two, I drop it there. Comment, thought, and whatever.
I want to hear Ryan's take on it, but just about what you said about engineer versus the like webbies.
The webbies, yeah.
That seemed like to be slacker webbies, but there was that one engineer that they showed at the end who solved the problem, right?
Yes, alone in the dark while everybody is partying and having the things.
And it's that lone engineer that looks at Agile and sees all this is a bunch of BS.
Yeah,
but there's a dialogue eventually I want to get to, because I think there's things to look at.
Absolutely, we saw the same thing, Errol.
Well, I think one thing that came up to me again, even in the back end of the discussion of what we're talking about now, the real developers, the engineers look at these pseudo developers. They aren't real developers, and God forget those touchy-feely goofball evangelists for Agile in the middle. And that, I think, that in-group, out-group stuff, I think that's the real problem with all this stuff. I think when in the very beginning of the video, it's like, do you even know what you're doing? Do you know what I'm doing? I mean, there's a level of communication that helps you go forward. And if you have respect for one another, and that you can be in ensemble with each other and do stuff that matters, and if you communicate honestly and effectively and with some tension, but tension with respect and conflict with respect, and that's when it happens. And that doesn't matter if, yes, you're an engineer, you have craft and art, you're fantastic, you have this business understanding, you have this ability to communicate and translate, we talk together. But I'm saying, but that happens, and again, I'll step back here in a moment, but this idea of having a small group with this really rich interaction, and this not this coach on the top, whatever on the bottom stuff. So
do we really need to have a system or a framework or whatever you want to call it to make this interaction, communication, collaboration happen? Why are we human beings, these thinking monkeys, in need of framework? Because in French, framework, it's actually it's oh my god, I'm losing my it's
cage.
A canvas. It's not. Well, yeah, you become a cage because it's we call it a cadre. A cadre. It's when you put your certification. You see, I'm part of the problem. I've got my.
That's the same.
It's a signal. It's semiotics.
How do you call where you put like the
frame?
The frame. Thank you. Framework. Exactly. So you call it framework. So there's a craftsmanship in English better than French, because French is only frame. Can you imagine that? You don't have the work. You just frame it. And you look at it and you wait that something happened. So that's why, and I could relate to it because I'm tricultural, French, Spanish, and English. And let me tell you one thing. In French, they get less of Agile. They are in need of this frame more. And I don't want, no intention to be racist here, guys. Sorry about this. I'm French anyway. So, but I mean, like, it's culturally probably with the language, because the word have a weight. And so when you think about it, because I'm always struggling and working within these Agile adoption, more in French, France and Quebec, no difference. Then when I elevate myself in United States, United Kingdom, in Australia, it seems better in the Anglo-Saxon type of thing. I'm not saying it's all perfect, because there's the same kind of struggling, but literally, and in Spanish, that's another story. I don't want to get there, but again, it's not about race. It's about language and culture that shape your mind with the words. Okay, so be careful in your comment. Don't call me a bigot or a racist because I just said that.
No, not at all. Not at all. This whole question of frameworks is important, because even if you think of the cultural idea of a frame.
Mm-hmm.
It's a kind of rigid structure when you choose one, and compare and contrast the idea of a framework to the ideas of Christopher Alexander in architecture, of thinking of patterns and noticing the patterns in a context where they provide value, and that is a huge difference, because Scrum has some fragility because of its rigidity. And that ends up sometimes being detrimental to.
Is that so? Do you really see or experience Scrum as a rigid type of system that create frameworks?
Okay.
Go.
Harold, sure.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, when we're talking about a frame, we're talking about a game, right? There's rules of the game, right? So it's a clear goal, clear rules and roles, way of tracking progress, and opt-in participation. 4-part game structure we talk about in Daniel's work, in Daniel Mezik's work, in all this stuff. In that it's okay to have rules and roles as long as you opt into them, and that if that structure, because without a structure, without a context, it is chaos. To try and self-organize and self-manage with no structure is asinine. And I think, but so I want to get back to the rigidity thing. So, and I know, and we all know, tons of Scrum Masters who manage that framework in very different ways, and to treat it as much more of a human thing, who gives space to the developers to manage those practices within that context and observe what happens in the context if it fits or doesn't fit the developers. I mean, and there's so many different ways. It's like jazz, man. It's like you have a tune, you got a melody, structure, chord changes in this. And then one person can play it like a march, another person can play it like a bossa nova, you can play it a duet, trio. I mean, this is and the jazz form, A, melody changes, structure, that's a form. You could say that's a framework, but there's infinite ways of navigating that framework to get the result that you want to get.
The way I experienced it since 1999, I don't want to brag about it, but when those two engineers and me the book of Schreiber and stuff and said, let's build this thing and let's try to do this with our software engineers. I mean, I never had in those last 23 years practicing Scrum. I could say that I onboard maybe 1,000 teams into it in different type of level, even using some kind of scale framework, for lack of a better word again. And that's why I was, since 2009, actually, I was picking Mike Beadle and this gang of Enterprise Scrum, because I like the possibilities of ultimate configuration of the Scrum system. Because this is Mike Beadle who taught me that it's a system. And because we have both a background in physics, if we understand the substantial element of the interrelation and interaction, you could get it. So there's for Mike and most of the gang in Chicago, there were no framework there. There was a system that you could actually make visual and create something. That's why Spotify, there's no such thing as a Spotify model. Spotify use Scrum. My guys from the Yelp, because I was a Scrum Master at Yelp in San Francisco, and two of the engineer and one designer, they built their own company when they moved into Austin, Texas. And they asked me, could you help us create our Scrum manage company? And even today, after $2 billion later and 6 years later, with the affiliation software and API, they are still the three guys and then the teams. That's it. There's no hierarchy. It's more a substantial hierarchy of architecture they do. So for me, when I hear that Scrum is rigid, well, if it is, it's probably a misunderstanding of this substantial hierarchy that could create those patterns you explained, I think, Harold, because pattern, it's more like a modus operandi of doing things and learning fast and changing things. It's not like the rule of the game. Oh, here's the rule of the game. Our team will be named this. I'm going to need like playing rugby or playing football. European football. And so you will have a defense, an advanced player, and this and that. So, whoa. Now, if you do that, and if it's not flexible, it's not anymore Scrum in my sense.
Well,
I don't know.
It's not a professional sport.
What?
It's not a professional sport.
They use this kind of emulation too often.
Well, that's the thing. You take it to the nth degree, and it's like, oh my god! And then you make the specific rules and the bureaucratic stuff and the violation of the rules. I mean, all that kind of garbage is that you're refereeing Scrum. That ain't what it's about, man. So
yeah.
Harold,
So
I think you'll have in there.
The two of you are basically countering me, so I want to counter because the Scrum guide, if you're not following it, you're really not doing Scrum, and you're not likely to get the benefits from doing Scrum if you don't actually engage in some of the core principles and how Scrum actually works. Right? So is that a flag, a referee flag? Did I break a rule? But I've been in plenty of agile transformations where it was really, really hard, and Scrum ended up being an imposition because they didn't really. So many of the folks really weren't wanting to do it, or they're just doing it by this naming the ceremonies, or the political environment was really not allowing them, did not even want them. Did not want them to do Scrum, but the people above the people above the people were saying, Hey, you all got to do scrums.
Here's the thing. So here's the thing. So it's not Scrum is rigid. It's
no, wait. Look. I need to finish my counter because what I found often really useful in helping people move towards what eventually might end up looking a lot like Scrum is the Kanban approach. Because even though I'm not like a fanatic about Kanban, there's a little bit more flexibility. You don't need to have just a specific iteration period. And there's a lot more clarity about streams that get interrupted. And for a lot of DevOps folks, they're constantly getting interrupted. You know, a lot of people in the delivery teams, they're getting constantly interrupted, and Scrum just gets painful to fake it. You know, it just...
Yes, but you mentioned that the guide from 1999 to 2006, I didn't have a guide as a Scrum Master. Scrum Alliance was around from Schraber himself. Agile Alliance was there, but there was nothing there. I used to hang out. I started hanging out with Agile Boston when Mizik created it, mostly with Schraber, his creation of Scrum Org, when he was pissed off with what happened with the certification process. So for me, following a guide, we were building it. It was a team building. What you have to know as a great servant leader, the coach of Scrum, is what is the purpose of our team and our organization and everything. So for me, that's the way I've learned it. So probably that's why I'm becoming now the Scrum grumpy guy. And I cannot stand all of these, whether it is what you saw in this video, the Paradoxon video actually could scare the shit out of some leaders or manager that want to implement a type of Scrum or Agile, whatever thing you want to call it, because they will say like, oh, now I'm going to have this kind of consultant or this kind of coach dancing around my office. This is not what I want. I don't want chaos, because they will associate badly the self-organized team to this kind of goofy circus that I've seen in San Francisco back in the day, that I've seen even here in Montreal, Cité du multimédia. So because that's the thing, is so probably why like you have to contain it, but saying that doing Scrum without following the guide, well, this is the rigidity. Because for me, of course, I prefer the art of Agile from Alistair Cockburn with his martial art approach of Shu-Ari. Because I think the rigid part you express, Harold, if I may, that's my understanding, it's my perception. It's when you are in the Shu part. And for our listener that don't know martial art and this Shu-Ari scale, the Shu moment of a team or a person learning something complex, like Scrum, it's you have one master. So let's say that today our one master will be Harold, and Harold is telling us, yes, follow the fracking guide. Follow the exact way to perform a planning, to do a daily stand-up. I agree, because we all new to it. So we have to follow one master, one set of rules, and this is the rigid aspect in the Shu moment. But when you sprint after sprint, you've learned from each other, you went into the curve of the Tuckman model, I believe that you could start to be in the moment. And the moment is when you bend the rule, when you start having this more configurable Scrum that we built at Enterprise Scrum, even without scaling, by the way. And then the moment is when we say, okay, thank you, Harold, very much. Now I'm going to learn from Ryan as well, and I'm going to teach it myself because I know better. So if you have this kind of Shu-Ari approach, and that was the response of Alistair Cockburn to a dark Agile or a zombie Agile blog back in the day from Ron Jeffrey, if I'm correct.
Yeah, but Alistair Cockburn is not a Scrum pusher.
But now he's not he's more like this. He called it Agile. Yeah, but I'm using it. I'm using his kind of process,
right?
I'm sorry.
He had his own framework.
It's Crystal, right? He's Crystal.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Okay, so now, if you want to go back in 2001, I was there in the chat room. You probably were, Harold too. You know, when they were arguing, and then I think it was Jim Highsmith and Robert C. Martin says like, we should gather together instead of, you know, all the people were like, oh, my method is better than yours. My Nexus thing is better than yours, and da. So yes, that's why they gather together, to stop arguing on those news group online forum on MERC. I'm speaking of people of almost the same
Merc.
age.
Yeah.
Merc, yes, Merc, MERC. So, I mean, so that's why they gather together. They propose to solve that battle between those systems. But anyways, my point is, if something is rigid or if it's flawless, it should be the decision of everyone. Agreement. If you're invited to do something, at least do something. But if you impose, on the rigidity, take another sense.
So I think we've gone 3 different places here, and that there's you. I want to get back to
first one.
So I think
are you going to identify where we've been going? The 3 places.
I wrote some stuff down. I mean, you were talking about. I think Harold, you brought in if you're not following the principles of Scrum, then all the rest of it doesn't matter. Right, and that's not
exactly what I said.
Well, I mean, you said something about the sense of if you're not following the rules, you're not doing Scrum. You said that, yes.
I'm saying you're not likely going to get the benefits if you don't really follow the guide. You're not likely to get the benefits of it.
Well, it's a true moment in my case.
Well, my point is that I think there's also the Scrum patterns. There's the Scrum patterns also in the Scrum book that Sutherland and James Copley put out there. That's a 700-page book with all the Scrum patterns and all the stuff, and the very nice articulation of that stuff. And the principles, there's only 3: transparency, inspection, and adaptation. How much of each of those do you want to do, and how do you want to establish those? And again, that's in the guide. So. And this is all about the interpretation of it. But again, we can argue about the details. I don't know that necessarily matters.
No. Let me bring you back to this paradoxon.
I also wanted to go into Shuhari and learning, because I think that's a specific kind of thing that I think there's some holes in.
But for me, this is the backstage that my team and I had success in implementing Scrum, and even Scrum with DevOps, even Scrum with OKRs, even Scrum, because that's the magic of it. And for me, it's a combination of what I've learned from Alistair Cockburn's proposition of the Shuhari at the Agile Art, without any framework, by the way. I took it for Scrum because I'm a sucker of Scrum. I love Scrum, okay? Because I think I understand the principle, and actually most of the Scrum coach that I know that perform and have great efficiency have all the background in science. Who else that? Not talking about engineering, but talking about whatever communication, be a great organizer. No. They have a background in physics or chemistry. So these are the ones who get it faster, because we could relate to what we've learned in physics, in astrophysics, and chemistry, and we put it back into a human interaction. So anyways, that's could be an opinion, but that's my experience objectively observing teams serve, not lead, not manage, but serve by a great Scrum Master who are a coach, bringing the principle of Scrum and with a kind of a understanding of the escalation. Because if you have all newbies people, even in the code, even in the business, you will have the Tachman cycle that will hit you. So if somebody will tell me, I never storm. If I interview a Scrum Master, I never had team that storm, so I don't know what the essence of your question of how I did mitigate any kind of behavioral aspect of the interaction between a designer and a product owner, for instance. So I mean, for me, that's bullocks. So there's always storming, and of course,
and we're storming now.
Yeah, well, but with a smile on our face. I mean, it's a conversation. It's an open conversation. And actually, I'm not here to be right or wrong, and I don't want to agree or disagree with you. I'm just openly thinking of it, and that's it. But maybe, Ryan, I feel you a little bit here with your eyes and everything. So get it out.
I'm listening here a little bit, and I think I wrote something else about. I mean, I think we are kind of talking about a little bit of the methods and practices and what came. One thing, I think maybe there's a key to this around. We talked about patterns, all right, and that the patterns give us that play in the middle, right?
Mhm.
I think, and I think, and what I learned, and again from Daniel Mezek, again, as he talked about the 8 patterns of open business agility.
Yep.
And the way what are we talking about? What patterns are? The way he described it, and it's probably different than Christopher and the way Christopher Alexander describes it, but it is this connection between values and principles, and then practices, right? And
Yeah.
there's this difference in the middle. There's the pattern. What practices will we use? How will we apply a pattern? So that tells us what framework and method and techniques, and whether it's flow, theory of constraints, whether we're going to go back to Crystal, XP, or all these other tools that are down here when the actual people doing the work are doing the work. But how does that container within which that team exists? What are the waves around that? What are we really going for? I mean, that's the thing. I think that's the key. That the patterns are the key. What gives us the space? What opens that space for teams to thrive?
Can I answer you with quoting the CEO? I was having a coffee early this morning. He said, "Don't give me that container. Just assemble a team. Just assemble a team."
Don't give me that. What? I don't know what word you used there.
Sorry.
Don't give me that
container.
I'm quoting. Maybe we had a kind of. I'm quoting the CEO. I was like having a coffee this morning because they want to hire our services to help them. Whatever the thing. He says like, don't give me any container or framework because I reuse your name container, because he says like first. My team is very generational, and some of them, the younger ones especially, they just want the freedom of expressing their skills, and they are really high skills. And for the older one, they dare to kind of, cover them. So, but the thing is, for him, he literally answered me at the point we had a kind of that conversation on what will be the best in their context and their business context and their SDLC context and everything. What will be the best maybe approach for them to learn or to implement? And I didn't mention anything myself. I didn't mention either Kanban or any other method with LiveRay, Java, what have you. No, nothing. I was not buzzwording anything. But at some point in the conversation, it resembled of what Ryan was expressing. And he says like, no. He said, I don't want any container, any framework. I want someone who will be able to help me assemble a team that are ready to deliver the greatest experience to my customer.
We are uncovering ways of developing software and helping others.
So that's why I believe in this shift in the mind of those buyers of our services. And yes, I agree completely with you. What Christopher and Mizik are explaining, I think that from what I get from now, so the principle should inform the patterns. And I always seen it like this. For me, I'm not an evangelist. I'm not reciting you the 4 values and the 12 principles. But I do believe that this manifesto for agile software development could be adapted to the real revolution of business agility. And we could use those 16 items, values and principle, to inform what will be. Actually, they help us to make decision. And it's not a one size fit all here. So you cannot but if when people ask, do we need the lean agile intelligence software to do the maturity assessment of an organization? No, you don't. You just I've got a card gameplay. I distribute those cards. Every card have a principle. Okay. They have to read the principle. They have to tell me what they understand from that principle, because we could have different point of view of it. And do you do it with your team? And if not, why not? hey, you just watched the light version of this great conversation, open conversation that you saw we had about this Agile Paradoxon and everything. So if you'd like to have more, the extra 30, 35 minutes where we go, Harold, Ryan, and myself, into some kind of proposed solution and proposed value for maybe next steps in that renaissance, I invite you to follow the link in the description of this LinkedIn or YouTube program to get the audio podcast, full-length, 90-minute show of the podcast The Real Agile. Or if you'd like to continue to see the visual, go to the exclusive streaming that is happening right now, or continue on Rumble. So click on the link below and see you then. Cheers!